Welcome back to the DTF Film Sessions. I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMaxDean, and I am here with Owen McCullor at Weekly Huddle on Twitter. Owen is a draft writer for us here at Defiant Takes Football, as well as the host of the Weekly Huddle on YouTube. We are going to be doing episode number 33, Calijah Kancey, the defensive lineman from Pitt. Really interesting prospect, polarizing. I don't think anybody doesn't like him, but there are definitely people who are lower on him because of his size. So we'll talk about that here in just a sec. But how you doing today, Owen?
I'm doing good, and my day's gotten a lot better now. I get to talk about one of the most fascinating and interesting players on in this draft class coming up for tomorrow's draft. Kancey is very polarizing just because he has measured in as like the shortest armed guy and is like one of those traditionally smaller defensive tackles that have been coming out in the mold of like Ed Oliver and Milton Williams and things like that. However, his tape is just phenomenal. So it's always that decision whether or not you're going to trust the tape or trust the traditional measurables area and where you're going to see success from that.
For me, you gotta trust the tape because it tells the story, right? The things that would cause him to hypothetically lose mass and arm length just don't seem to be a problem. So it's like we're trying to say that something that doesn't crop up even against good competition in college is going to be a problem in the NFL. And I understand the reservation, but to me, it's like the proof is there, right? If you really
Mm-hmm.
look at it. So let's jump into it. We've got some plays of all different types to try and see if we can expose any of the issues. And you tell me, everybody, if we find them or not. All right. All right. So here, the one thing that does happen is it kind of seems like he's doing it on purpose. Like he's going to that side, but he does kind of let himself get turned away from the action of the play slightly. But like the way where he puts his head initially kind of seems like he's just trying to make sure he maintains that gap and he's okay with that.
Yeah, it looks like so. This play isn't particularly terrible for him because I know there are some issues where you think with these smaller guys they're just going to get blown off the ball. He isn't like physically moved out of the way. If he wanted to, he could probably shoot past that guy as he does eventually. Too late in the play to actually impact it, but I feel like it was more that he was being cautious with cutback or something like that to make sure his gap responsibility was there until the running back
Mm-hmm.
committed and that he was already decided to, I'm not going to be the one making this play. I'm allowing everyone else who's on the play side to make it. I'm just going to do my job. And then if I can get off this block and if the play stretches out for long enough, I'll get down there and make a play afterwards.
Right. And he's not moved at all off the spot. And we need to point out that Tennessee's offensive line was really good this year. All right. So that's just kind of a ho-hum play. Here you see a little bit more of the explosiveness. And this is where you see that arm length not being a problem because he explodes up and he's so quick that he wins the leverage battle. He gets the punch inside. I mean, he essentially wins. He can control either gap from this position, and he drives the offensive lineman back slightly, and then reaches out to make the arm tackle.
Yeah, the problem that always comes along with having shorter arm length is that the guy is just going to lose the inside leverage battle immediately. However, Cansey being one of those guys who's in the 97th percentile, 99th percentile when it comes to the 10-yard split and 40-yard dash from the guys at the combine, it shows up in the tape where he just gets out of his stance fast enough that even these guys who have longer arms but maybe don't know how to use them well enough or just slower out of their stance, allow him into their chest first. And that way, once you're inside the chest, the length isn't really an issue. They always teach you that that's where the center of control is on the mass of the person. So no matter how big you are, how small you are, if you can control the shoulder pads, you really can throw these guys around. And especially with how fast and quick his hands are. So he's able to get into a guy, establish inside leverage, and then use his hand speed to just get off and cross chop out guys off, get off blocks, despite not having this incredible strength. So even though he's not blasting this guy back into the run play, like we've seen with these more dominant interior defensive linemen, he's not losing ground. If anything, he's gaining like a yard or so, and then still maintaining control to be able to slip off that block as soon as the runner comes past him.
The one downside, I guess, with the arm length would be here when he kind of rolls off this block here and he reaches out for the running back. He doesn't have that extra length to really get a good grasp of him. He's so strong that he doesn't really lose it until the running back is already kind of falling down. But he does need help cleaning up this play, right? So, like, in the case of a classic two-gapping, like, well, I guess is a 4-eye. So you would like a guy that has the length to be able to wrap up the running back after disengaging, and he doesn't quite do that. But that's really
there's always going to be spots where you're going to pick and choose with that. And when someone has as little length as he does, like I said, I think he's in like the bottom 4 of all time measurements, if not like the least lengthy guy ever at the position. You're going to see plays that where you're like, well, if he had longer length, it'd help out there. But it's for the most part, the consistency with it is going to be that he isn't bogged down by the traditional issues that people really associate with length there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to come at this from the other angle here. All right, so he's lined up just shaded outside of the guard, and he comes all the way across the center too quickly for the center to really do anything, and he forces Hooker into a scramble here, which is effective. And, if this blitzing safety there was able to make a play, that's great. Unfortunately, he's not, but this is the athleticism and speed that make him a really, really exciting prospect, right? So if we talk about the ability to anchor and the arm length not necessarily being a problem, this is what makes him special.
Yeah, you definitely get to see that side-to-side explosiveness and the speed even working laterally. And the effect of that this has on this play is that he just draws the attention of the play side guard he's on, the center, and that allows the delayed blitz from the secondary. And I think even the linebacker may come on. No, he drops. So it's just a safety. But that pulling that guard and that center over, allowing the safety a free run at the running back. And if that's like a Jamal Adams or somebody in the NFL who is more tuned to coming on blitzes that they're going to have designed up coming on blitzes, that's probably a free sack, if anything, even worse of a play where they're just going to have to throw the ball away. And even without talking about that, he beats that center around the gap because he has that wide open gap from the D tackle kind of looping outwards, and he's able to bend around the edge. So he has a little bit of that bend, a little bit of lack of hip stiffness, so he can even play out on defensive end on if you have like a bigger guy you want to bounce inside, you could potentially think about that. As well as this lateral agility will show up when he does like his cross chop move a lot, which is what he's most successful with. So I think this shows a lot of versatility in what his athleticism can do whether it comes to pulling multiple players to be able to open up these stunts, or it shows up in his own individual pass rush attempts here.
Yeah, look at the ankle flexion there. Like he looks like a defensive end coming around the left tackle here. The ability to run through contact and dip that shoulder. Okay. He definitely does have outside versatility. Okay, and so here is where you see the explosiveness. He's really good at turning speed to power. Whoa. What happened there?
It was so fast you couldn't even see it.
Yeah. He's really good at turning speed into power. And so here he's just going to drive his offensive lineman straight back into the quarterback because, again, he's so fast and his hands are so quick that he wins the leverage battle immediately before the offensive lineman ever has time to get a really well-placed punch on him. So in this case, again, arm length just doesn't matter. Drives the legs exceptionally well. It's really good. Hendon Hooker had a great year. This is why I'm a lot higher on him than a lot of people. That move to escape on the last play and then the ability to get this ball off accurately is really impressive. But you cannot take away from the fact that this play was completely disrupted by Calijah Kancey alone.
Yeah, you can see that first step explosiveness we talked about before, and the fact that this is it's not like it's a puller that's not able to get to the spot in time. It's a guy coming out of his stance and getting to a player that's basically just outside of his inside or his outside shoulder there, just replacing where the puller is coming from, and he's not able to get set. And when you get these guys like Kancey who are smaller and lighter for the position, they're definitely going to be some of those guys that are going to be more gym rats working out in the weight room, refining their technique like this, where he keeps his pad level low, gets into his chest first, and he has that leg drive. He has some powerful legs because he knows he has to compensate for other things that are going to be lacking in his game that just don't naturally come to him. So a play like that just shows off that he knows that he has the inside leverage there. He shows his leg drive, his good leg drive technique, and as well as just being able to collapse the pocket, where the last play we saw, he impacted the pass rush by being more of a looping guy, take away to get attention from the blockers and open up pathways for his blitzers. Well, this one, he's just able to condense and collapse it and not allow for that area for the quarterback to step up in. And yes, Hooker definitely made a phenomenal play there in both plays, actually. But regardless, he had to make these great plays that we're really commenting on because Kancey was able to impact that the pocket as much as he did.
All right, next up, got him on the other side now. Primarily been playing on the left, now he's on the right side. So he's very stout in the run game because of that speed to power that he has. Look at this. He's up quick, perfectly placed hands, gets the shoulder pads, low pad level. Not only is it low pad level by nature, but he also just does a great job with maintaining that and being very intentional about it. And then look how quick those feet are. I can play it in real time so you can see. Like that little hop where he just changes the leverage outside. And because he has his hands in the perfect place, he's able to control when he disengages and shift off. Because the running back isn't quite as far away from him as the last time, arm length doesn't matter. He's able to get on him, wrap him up, and take him down. So this is a run defense play where you're like, this is proof that at the next level, he's going to be facing better competition, but there's no reason that he cannot be an effective player against the run.
Yeah, you definitely see that despite them trying to chip him to try to get him to lose that kind of leverage battle, and he gets that initial jump, and they have the center kind of help before taking him the blitzing linebacker. He isn't really bothered by it, and he's able to stay stout. And this is even better than if it was a one-on-one guy and he was like, oh, he didn't give up any ground. This is having him an active double team, a chip block, a helping out block, and he still maintains that core strength and being able to keep leverage before coming off and making a tackle. So he shows some tremendous strength. I know he didn't really do any of the strength tests at the combine, but I'm sure he would have done just well enough at the bench that you've been like, well, this is something that's not going to be an issue. And he, like you said, perfect leverage, natural low center of gravity to help with that core strength as well as the pad level. And as well as you said, with the intentional ability to not get, high up as soon as he engages. So he does everything technically and fundamentally sound. It's just going to be that how much is his length and lack of weight going to, one, impact what GMs see on him, to what for as far as how high he's going to be drafted, and how much is it going to impact him when he's facing these guys who, even though this is SEC competition, the NFL is bigger, longer, stronger guys. Is there's going to be such a stark difference that it's going to impact him as a defender that we haven't seen yet in the film.
Mm-hmm. The first step quickness for him is really unbelievable, right? Even though the player he's going up against is longer than him, he's just able to get to the spot that much faster.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where he gets out of his stance so quickly and into the lineman. They're expecting to be able to set and then punch, but he's on them immediately that they just have to lunge at him to try to prevent him from, slow him down, prevent him from blowing right past them. And he's able to then use his hands to use the momentum against them, not only on the guard, but with the center as well, who is watching for the late blitzer. His guard gets absolutely beat, and they both have to kind of lunge at him, and he has the ability to shoot those gaps and just bounce off those attempts because he's already in his forward progress moving towards the backfield. There's nothing much they can do because he's so quickly out of his stance for the other guys that they don't really have that time or ability to react and recover enough. So he's just able to blow by these guys and makes it look easy. And that's one of the best things you can say about a prospect is when they make things look easy for you when watching it. Is like, it's not easy. This is high level competition, but when you look at it, it's like, well, that was easy for him. It's really something that's going to be indicative of specialness for him, and that's what his first time explosiveness and just overall pass rushing ability is.
The ability for him to run through two players and impact the play in just this short amount of time is really, really, really impressive. I mean, from snap, so 1, 2. On the ground. Like, I know that there's someone coming from the end over here, wins the rep, or at least enough so that Hooker feels the need to step up in the pocket. But still, like, it wouldn't matter. I mean, if he's scanning the field, this is still a sack in 2 seconds, and there's not much you can do as a quarterback if you're getting taken down in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did our Hendon Hooker review, Coach Reagan Smith and I, it's not posted as of this moment, but obviously it will be before this is posted. We talked about how much time he had just in general throughout the course of the year, right? So Hooker had a line that really held up very well, allowed him to scan the field and deliver the ball. And that's one of the things you're a little worried about, is if the expectation for that to happen at the next level, that might be a little bit of a learning curve for him. To face pressure coming faster. And so for his offensive line to be giving up pressure this quickly to a player like this, it kind of shows how special he was. And it's not like Tennessee didn't play a good schedule this year, right? It's loaded with SEC talent. They played Alabama. They played all kinds of really good teams. So for this to be the player that gave that offensive line maybe the most trouble all year, I feel like that just tells me everything. I mean, it doesn't tell me everything I need to know, but it's definitely a key piece of the information here. And when you watch what he's able to do against guys that are bigger than him in the run game, you see what he's able to do as a bull rusher. You see what he's able to do with his quickness and balance. I mean, he's the full package. It doesn't come with the wrapping paper that you expect. That's kind of what I think. I don't think that any of the concerns will ultimately be a problem at the next level. So
It's gonna determine whether or not I think you said it pretty well, is that he's this all around good to great defensive tackle prospect, but he doesn't come in the frame or size you expect from one guy. And if you're a normal even front, even an odd front, if you want to put him at 5 tech DN, that could probably work. But I think he'd probably fit better with those, gap shooting 3 techs. Where we saw the issue with that Oliver when he was at Houston was that he was working in an odd front scheme, and they put him at nose tackle, and that's just not where he's going to succeed at. now that Kancey was able to play in that kind of scheme that you'd hope that these guys are going to play in when they're in college, you can see how dominant they can be. And I had no doubt that like a guy like Oliver would have been looking like this when we were playing, and he even went 9th overall and was super popular that year. And I think what's holding Kancey back from being talked about as a top 10 guy or something like that is the fact that Oliver went 9th and he hasn't really panned out and had that success that you'd expect. Whereas Kancey showed up in the correct system and is performing well in that system. It's going to be more or less how much is that Oliver pick going to impact him, and how much is it that these odd front defenses are going to not want him in that nose position, and how comfortable they are putting that 5-tech D end.
Well, and I also think that Calijah Kancey is better against the run than Ed Oliver. And I think that it really is, you're drafting him for his ability as a pass rusher. And we're showing you that the concern as a run defender is probably overblown, right? So I don't think that you don't draft him in the top 15 or wherever he might go because for his run defending skills. You draft him there because of his pass rushing skills, but you feel comfortable doing it there because he is a viable run defender as well. I think that's the best way that I could put it. I have a hard time seeing him really struggle against anyone but the best offensive lineman. And again, I still think that he can win pass rush reps, but if you're a team that has a heavy defensive line rotation, if he's not seeing as much early in the game, then when he has to go up against players who have been playing every snap throughout the entire game, and he gets a bulk of his reps in the second half, he's going to be really, really hard to deal with when you're not moving quite as fast. You know what I mean? And you're in the middle of that grind as an offensive lineman, and then you got this guy who's just screaming all over the place. I think if he could get to a place with good offense or a good defensive line rotation, that would be really beneficial for him. And then there are teams like the 49ers and their offshoots in terms of their defensive line philosophy, where for them, it's really more about, like you said, gap shooting, where it's about getting through the line and then either making a big play or relying on the linebackers to come up and kind of fill those spaces that may have been vacated. He's a great fit for that too, because he's not going to be asked to, anchor as often, and he's going to be asked to just get into the backfield and wreak havoc as much as he possibly can. So I think ultimately does depend on what scheme you run, where you value him as well. I don't think a top 10 to 15 pick is universally worthwhile for him, depending on who you are.
Yeah, I think what's really going to determine it is that the GMs are going to have two schools of thought. Either his measurables are so different than anything we've really seen succeed at the NFL, outside of a few small blips with Aaron Donalds, and even to a smaller extent Ed Oliver, who is a starting tackle but hasn't really lived up to that 9th overall potential. Is your GM going to be the school of thought of I'm going to pass on him and let somebody else take the gamble that this is going to be another one of those guys that's going to match up and actually work out despite having those physical limitations? Or B, are you going to be that GM that is like, I'm willing to bet on the tape and bet that these physical limitations aren't going to be as big of an issue as others take? So it's really going to come down to how big of a need do you have a D tackle, and if you have that D tackle need, are you going to be conservative and let somebody else take the shot on him, or are you going to be the one that steps in and says, okay, this is my guy. We saw what we saw. We know what we're going to see, and it's going to be we're going to trust that he can translate that to the NFL level.
At this point, he is absolutely my defensive tackle too, behind Jalen Carter. We're going to be doing Mozzie Smith soon, so I don't know how I feel about him necessarily yet. I haven't done my full look through, but as it stands, he's an easy number 2. I like him definitively better than Brian Brissy. So much more refinement. Weird package again, but very high athletic upside still. So I think he's going to be a really great pick for whoever decides to make that move.
Yeah, I'm a huge Mozzie guy, so I have him half a point higher than Kancey as my D tackle too. But I have Kancey head and shoulders above Brian Brissy, who I'm not the biggest fan of this draft cycle. So obviously there's Jalen Carter. Then for DTF will tell you, I can be swayed on either one of those guys. I just know I'm pretty high on Mozzie Smith compared to what other people have seen. So I'm interested to see what you guys think about it when you finally get around to doing him.
Yeah, it should be. Today's already Wednesday, so yeah, should be tomorrow prior to the draft. We'll get it done. But all right, I'm Max Dean. You can find me on Twitter at @TheMaxDean. Owen is at Weekly Huddle on Twitter, and you can find Defiant Takes Football at Defiant Takes on all social media outlets. Plus, check out all of our written content over at DefiantTakesFootball.com. We will be live for the post-draft first round. So after the first round, we are going to be doing a live stream reacting to everything. And then, of course, we will have all of our prospect breakdowns here. So if your team drafts one or two of the players that we've broken down, feel free to go check those out, like and subscribe, because we will continue to do this even after the draft throughout the summer as well. Thanks, Owen, and we'll see you all very soon.